let's start at the very beginning.
Sure.
Hello,
Hello.
and welcome to A Bell Chimes, a role playing adventure podcast. I'm Morgan Rogers, one of your hosts, and today we'll be introducing one of our adventurers before we get down to the adventuring. So, Oika, would you like to introduce yourself?
As Anka or as Oiku?
As Oika first, you don't have to give your surname if you don't want that to be in the podcast. That's fine. Just first name and whatever you want to tell the audience about yourself.
Yeah, like my character, I don't have a surname.
Incredible.
I dropped my surname after becoming a geodesist. Um, for context, my character name is Anka, and she dropped the surname after joining the Flat Taurus Circus.
Of course.
So yeah, I'm Oku. Unlike the others, I'm not British. I'm not an English speaker. So in advance, I apologize for my grammar mistakes. Um, yeah, I'm doing this thing during the second year of my PhD at the end of my second year, basically. So let's hope this will give me the space to distress.
How can people find you?
So feel free to follow me on Twitter. And my handle is Call Me Boik. Well, there is a backstory why it is Call Me Boik, but yeah.
Fantastic. So, you've mentioned a little bit about your character, Anka. You've mentioned that she is a member of the Flat Taurus Earthers. Do you want to tell us a tiny bit about them?
Yes, we believe that Earth is a bagel.
Perfectly rational belief. And what does Anka look like in your mind?
Not too tall, not too short, somewhere in the middle. Um, Taller than me. um, Short hair, short red hair, um, with blue bits in it, and um, she carries longbow with her um, all the time. Large shoulders because she's good at this stuff.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of hard work to be a flat Taurus Earther.
Yeah, she's wearing a very dark green uh, sleeveless top and yeah, a big belt, and on the belt there is a bagel shaped uh,
Ah, a bagel belt buckle.
yeah, bagel shaped buckle.
So, Anka is held captive by some flat earthers who are transporting her back towards Maine, where they happen to have a big base of operations for spreading the word about the true nature of the world and its dark underbelly. Your captors are three rather unpleasant flat earthers. They're unpleasant in different ways. The first has a permanent frown that makes him unpleasant to look at. The second has a rather unpleasant personality, which gives him a tendency to lash out, despite his lack of wit. The third has the most unpleasant snore imaginable. So, you and your three captors are passing through the small village of Dunkhurst, where the three have decided to stop for the night. And as you enter the village, you saw some posters lying around. Some ripped off and thrown on the floor. One a little bit dishevelled. It's clearly been rained on. Attached to a tree. And these posters read, "The Crypt Diggers need you." With a rather handsome man pointing out of the image at anyone looking at the posters. To see if these posters stir any memory, you can roll a wit check.
Sure. Let's see, 2d6. And my modifier was 3, so 8.
That's 3. Okay, well, an 8 total is unfortunately a failure. So these posters, the Crypt Diggers, that seems to ring a bell, but you can't quite place it. The ugly one says, "Oi, what are you looking at?"
You know, the flyer, obviously.
"You should be looking at the ground, like we told you. Come along."
Why? Will that make me be a flat earther?
Maybe if you spend long enough looking at the ground, you'll realise that the only shape it could be is flat.
Right. Like your brain, yeah.
I was about to say that tonight's your lucky night, and that you'd be staying in the hostel with us. But it seems that you've got a sharp tongue again. So we'll be leaving you outside in the cold.
Sure, fine by me, as long as I'm not staying with you. I prefer being cold.
The ugly one stomps a few paces ahead, unable to come up with an adequate comeback to your stinging remark. It's only a few minutes later that you arrive at the hostel that was previously mentioned. And immediately adjacent to the hostel is a barn, or a stable in fact, where there is one horse in residence and plenty of room for someone that doesn't deserve the respect of paid bed and board. So the one who snores shoves you into the stable, puts a few coins into the hand of the stable hand, and then goes about tying you up by your wrist restraints to one of the wooden posts in the barn. Are you going to do anything?
Well, how far is the horse? Can I go next to the horse?
The horse is at the back of the stable. The way, from the length of rope that you have of where he's currently tying you, you can't reach the horse.
Can I make the horse come to me? But before that, I need to ask that how they tied my hands, like, because I have a plan, but I don't know if.
Okay, well, obviously they don't let you have your longbow. They're carrying it along with your other possessions, in their respective packs. So, I mean, you're keenly aware of the location of your bow slung over the shoulder of the one who snores, as he is tying your wrist restraint. And everything else is in the pack of the foul-mouthed one. Let's go with that.
Oh, what the fuck? I wanna give it a go. Well, so Anka reaches to her pocket where she kept a dice of sugar.
Uh-huh.
when they were having tea, but she stole this piece of tiny sugar because she thought it might be handy at some point, and I found it. I think it is the time she puts the sugar in a way that can stand on the rope, on the part that is covering her hands, and trick the horse and come and have a little munch, by including the rope that covers her hands.
Excellent. So no sooner has the ugly one finished tying your rope and turned his back, Anchor furiously crumbles the sugar onto the rope, and turning around, this sees a horse that is clearly hungry, and manages with a series of clicks and here boys, coax the horse over to chew on the sugary rope to the point that you can make an escape. So just as your three captors are making their way into the hostel where they're checking in, you've managed to get yourself free, and you are looking around the corner. You just caught a glimpse of the ugly one going into the hostel with his long bow slung over his shoulder. What do you do?
Obviously, I'm gonna get my longbow.
All right. Anything else?
And then I'm gonna steal the horse and dump the horse in the middle of the forest, and then go and check out this thing that I saw on the flyer.
It's at this point that you remember what you were told a few months ago, just before you went on the expedition that was so rudely interrupted by these ungodly flat earthers. So another member of your organization told you that if you were ever desperate to escape from a dire situation, you could turn to the crypt diggers, because there were both sympathizers and flat Taurus Earther believers amongst the crypt digger companies.
Ah, right, the crypt diggers. Is there any kind of information on the flyer where I can find them?
You spot another one of these flyers blowing in the breeze that just conveniently happens to arrive at your feet. And you see the smaller text at the bottom of the flyer says, "Join the company of Evermore." And reading the name Evermore, a further name occurs to you. The name Erwan Tank, a senior member of both the Bagel Believers and the Flat Taurus Earthers, that's the same people, and the Crypt Diggers, who happens to be a member of the arm of the Crypt Diggers known as the Company of Evermore. This seems like your chance.
Oh, that's great. That's brilliant.
So, to attempt to reclaim your possessions from the ugly one that you've just seen go into the hostel, roll a brawn check. So, you rolled an 8, and it will be 8 plus 2, so you got a 10. You managed to overpower the ugly one as you take him by surprise, grabbing your bow off him and managing in the same fluid motion to grab the quiver off the other side. And just as all three members of this trio are shouting at you to stop and come back, you are out of the door, knowing that your only chance of escape is to leave your remaining possessions behind you with this horrible bunch. And so it is that you find yourself running and running through the woods just outside Dunkhurst, following the trail of posters leading you towards the Crypt Diggers. But the scene shifts. You can feel your three pursuers closing in on you. You can feel the darkness of the woods growing deeper, and the trees, they seem to be getting closer together. The path is getting thinner and harder to follow, and you're lost. You look around and you hear their voices and that horrible snoring. And as the panic begins to rise in your throat, you awake. It was just a nightmare. And it might have gone on for another 5 to 10 minutes, but for the chime of a bell. Anka awakes to the noises of the camp, which as yet are not so familiar to her. She scrambles out of her tent and shuffles over to the small campfire around which 4 of her campmates are eating a breakfast of leftover soup.
Ah, hark! Good morning, fair maiden. Welcome, welcome. Are you lost?
In a way, I guess. I don't know. I was running away from the flat earthers, and then I found myself here. Like,
Oh, please take my seat by the fire. Please warm yourself.
oh,
My name is Victor von Thorn, former knight of. Well, we needn't go into that. But just bear in mind, I'm very chivalrous. Next to me is the great Caradon Gespenst,
Good
a
morning.
nobleman. Very
Yes. Would
down
you
to
like some
earth.
soup?
oh, soup for breakfast?
It's left over. The best kind of soup.
What kind of soup are we talking about? But it sounds a bit weird, like having soup for breakfast.
We haven't quite identified what's in it. I think I saw a carrot about 20 minutes ago, but it's disappeared. And these other two gentlemen, well, I haven't actually had the pleasure yet.
So, Erwan Tank, who is a sort of great, very tall man with sort of a scarred face and sort of long flaxen hair, sort of stands up and says, "I'm Erwan. You the bagel believer girl?
Yeah, what gave it away?
I was told to expect a new recruit to our cult."
Yes, I'm one of the bagel believers.
Bagels?
I was running away from the flat earthers, and they kidnapped me, and I managed to find a way out. I ran away, but I don't know where I'm going, what I'm doing. I guess I should be quiet and just, my name is Anka. I left my surname. I don't have a surname after I joined the Bagel Believers.
You don't need a surname when you're a member of the bagel believers, nor do you need a surname when you're a crypt digger.
How convenient.
Anyone else rather hungry?
Well,
I believe a bagel would make this breakfast a lot better.
Well, in fact, as
bagel,
we're welcoming a new member of the clan, bagels for everyone, and he sort of pulls open his coat, and he's got a load of bagels hanging on little hooks, and he sort of like
You just
picks them up
carrying those?
and frisbees them over to each member of the group.
Thanks, old chap.
And then lastly, the fourth man sitting around the fire sort of stands up delicately. He's a sort of slender man in a sort of a purple sort of cloak, who sort of bows his head slightly and says, "And I am Stephen de Pretis. I serve as consigliere for Geron's Star Wedge. So I'm sort of serve as her eyes and ears in the camp and make sure that her will is done."
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So, bagel belief. That's not something I'm very familiar with. Oh,
A voice is loudly heard over your discussion, or rather, a sharp throat clearing, as Sir Arthur Estracar makes his presence known and says, "Gentlemen, my lady, if you're almost done with breakfast, it's about time you got your marching orders for the day."
don't waste any time, these cryptics, did I?
Hey, I haven't even started blessing my bagel and then start eating it. Just give me at least 5 minutes.
Arthur looks over at Stephen de Pretis and raises one eyebrow and then turns to walk away.
How does one bless a bagel?
Well, first you pick up your bagel
Done.
and kinda hold it to horizon and say, "My bagel, oh bagel," and then you just start eating.
Well, I never.
You must break the bagel. After saying, "Oh bagel, my bagel," you break the bagel.
Exactly, sorry, my bad.
That's no problem.
Hanging around with flat tortoise. It's been a while since I actually had some bagel.
After little ado, once the initial conversation dies down and everyone tucks hungrily into their bagel and soup, it falls to Stephen de Pretis to liven up the ranks and get them standing up straight before the tent of the leader of the camp, Garon Starwitch. Once everyone is assembled, Stephen pokes his head through the tent flap and nods sharply before standing to attention outside. Moments later, the tent flaps are swept aside as, dressed in her impressive fur coat, Garon Starwedge exits and inspects the new recruits, whom, up until now, she's had as little to do with as possible. She goes over to whisper something in Sir Arthur Estracar's ears, which none of you managed to quite catch. And then she addresses the three new recruits, Erwan Tank and Stephen de Pretis, all together. "So, it's nice to see some fresh meat, but I've got some bad news for you little fishes. The reason the fine company of Evermore finds itself here in this particular, rather unspectacular geographic location is that we've been sent on a wild goose hunt. Now, you may be more than dismayed to hear it, but I am not in the best likings of the higher-ups of the company, and so it falls to my arm to investigate the less likely sounding claims. Now, in principle, we're here to investigate what amounts to nothing more than a myth. Once upon a time, there was an artifact known as the Staff of Behemoth. Behemoth being an ancient wizard, great in size and power. Honestly, I've not seen any evidence that it was anything more than a children's story, but some of the alleged effects of this mythical artifact have been witnessed in these woods, and that's why we're here. Now, it so happens that we crypt diggers are opportunists, and so when we heard some more verifiable or actionable rumors in this particular area, we decided to take what reward we could get to act on them. It seems there are some strange wolves roaming about, and they need dealing with. The only problem being that these wolves haven't been behaving as one might expect wolves to. The usual anti-wolf strategies of the local farmers aren't working. Blah, blah, blah. Children going missing. There's something here, anyway. So, you four, and Stephen, of course, you'll have to accompany them, are going to scout out the woods, see what you can find. What do you say?
Sounds like a job for Victor Von Thorn, I say.
So we're looking for geese?
I've killed a few wolves in my time.
Oh, so have I.
What are we doing chasing after some measly wolves?
Yes, I know you may think it's beneath you, Erwan, but I can see how restless you've been just sitting around here in camp with nothing to do, so rather than sending you back to pick up supplies with Miranda and the others, I thought you could show these new recruits the basics of navigating the woods and whatnot.
We shan't let you down, Miss Wedge.
If these new recruits can't navigate woods and they can't kill a few wolves, then I don't know what I'm going to be able to do to help them.
Now,
Seems like you'll be here for moral support.
I've wasted enough time instructing you in this matter, so I'll leave the remainder of the details to Arthur here, who has been fully debriefed. And I'll have you forgive me if I get right back to more pressing matters. And without waiting for your opinion or agreement, Garone Starwedge retreats back into her tent,
Crikey.
leaving Arthur to once again clear his throat sharply before addressing you all. So, there are some less savoury details, which the fair Starwedge may have neglected to mention. Therefore, falls to me to explain that there's some strange ectoplasm that's been collected and presented to us as part of the plea for help. And 2 farmers are missing their children. So, you'll be travelling northwest of here, where some tracks have been spotted. Do you have any questions?
What's ectoplasm?
A kind of goo. It seems to be corrosive in nature, and he reaches into a satchel that he's wearing and pulls out a vial, which is filled with a kind of yellow fluid, which seems quite viscous and is faintly glowing.
I think I ate some ectoplasm for breakfast, to be honest.
Yummy.
How are you inside, man? Corroded?
I'll let you know in a few hours.
Yes, do.
Enough idle chit chat. Do you have any questions?
No, all clear, sir. Thank you.
All right, everyone. I trust you'll lead the way. And Stephen, if you find any significant clues, please report back with the position of the party.
What Garone wills will be done.
Okay. Is there any preparation that you want to make before you leave on this mission? I don't have anything specific in mind, just anything you want to do before you leave the camp. Otherwise, you're basically going to leave the camp.
We took our own weapons, didn't we?
That's a good thing to establish. Yeah, so remind us what weapons each of you is carrying.
Okay. Now, Victor von Thorn clings to a very fine spear that he might have taken from his father's armory as a keepsake, purely. A kite shield to defend his fine calves from attack. Yeah, those are his principal weapons. He's also got a crowbar for less nightly fighting,
Fair enough.
more Gordon Freeman type.
What's Carradine carrying?
I don't entirely remember. I think he was carrying a light sword.
Whoa, a light sword?
Vroom,
Zoom.
Cool, and what about Anka?
Crossbow.
Crossbow, huh?
Nice.
I thought it was going to be a longbow.
Well, that's the only fit to that name. I mean, come on.
It was a longbow, then someone pissed it off.
Yeah, but which is it though? So do you want it to actually be a crossbow? That's the one where you have to wind it up to load it. Or is it going to be a longbow where you carry arrows in a quiver?
Okay, I didn't actually think about this. So, longbow, yeah, maybe, yeah.
All right.
Let's go with that.
Longbows are cool.
So the members of the party have prepared their weapons, and before the sun has risen above the tree line, the party of 5 makes their way into the woods. So, I'd like you all to make wit checks to determine how you do at tracking, at looking for clues in the woods. You'll have to add your modifiers yourselves.
Now then, I suppose you're sitting there thinking, what on earth is a wit check, and when do I get to listen to these feckless morons be torn limb from limb? Have patience, we'll get there. Our cryptigers have 3 most vital attributes: brawn, will, and wit. At times during their adventures, these will be tested. It may sound to you like a couple of six-sided dice being rolled with modifiers applied on top, but this is merely an auditory metaphor for more corporeal struggles. Ding dong. Bye-bye for now.
Yeah, I got 0 wit, so I did not make that check.
Okay, so the characters respectively rolled. Arawan got a 9 plus 0. Is that right?
That's right.
Caradon rolled a 5 plus 2.
2, yeah.
Victor rolled a 6 plus 0.
Mm-hmm.
Anchor rolled a 3 plus 2 plus 3.
I'm trying to remember my stats, but this is a wit check, right?
Yeah.
So I have, for the advancement, I have the +3.
Yeah. You chose extra wit. Unfortunately, that's still not enough to pass this check. And finally, Stephen Depretis rolled an 8 plus 2. So Stephen and Arawan clearly leading the way here. And they quickly come across some strange paw prints, which they're able to follow, along with broken branches and other signs of movement, including some disturbing drag marks where it appears something has been pulled through the undergrowth.
Estrakar was right. These are no normal wolves.
Makes you say that.
These paw prints. You see, they're larger. They're sunk deeper than those of any normal wolf. Wolves are normally light.
That is slightly concerning.
Maybe it's just a fat wolf.
I've seen many fat wolves in my time. I still recognize the prints. You can tell a fat wolf's paw prints instantly. These are no fat wolf.
Okay.
I'll take your word for it.
Anchor and Victor, roll observation checks.
Is it 2d6?
Observation check is just a flat 2d6, yes.
Oh,
Well, hey.
I'm perceiving.
All right. As Arawan is deeply focused on following the paw prints, and Stephen the Pretus is marking on his makeshift field map the course of these tracks, Victor notices a glowing lump in the undergrowth.
Chaps, could this be some of that ectoplasm that the boss mentioned earlier? I see something glowing.
Is it gooey? Is it like a mucosa? Have you checked?
It's a little ways off the path, so you can't immediately make out the nature of the thing.
Might be a nice little trail to the wolves.
Why don't you go and have a look?
Yes, right on it. Yeah.
Victor goes over to take a closer look at this blob.
Bravely goes over to take a look.
It's resting against the bottom of a tree, obscured by a fern.
I'm going to poke it with my spear.
No sooner does he move the fern aside than he sees that within this glowing blob of, well, it definitely is ectoplasm, is the severed remains of a human hand.
Ah, right.
Take a grip check.
Because I didn't eat too much breakfast now. Do I need to take a grip check?
Yes, please.
Okay.
It's the most measured response I've ever heard to seeing a severed human hand
Well,
in some ectoplasm.
Oh my.
well, Victor was a knight. Like he's seen thumbstep.
He has
Really?
seen someone's hand chopped off before.
Yeah, I might have done. I probably chopped someone's hand off.
It's just how Victor rolls.
Speaking of rolls, what do I need to roll?
It's 2d6 plus your will.
It is inevitable that any crypt digger worth their salt will witness horrors that will make them wish they had simply stayed at home. These will, eventually, take a toll on even the most hardened adventurer's grip on the taut fabric of reality.
Past that. That's 12.
Wow, an
11
11.
Wow.
A retroactive justification of the non-plus reaction.
Told you I didn't care.
He's seen it all before.
Yeah. I've chopped off many peasants' hands in my time.
He inspects the hand to see if it's one he's chopped off previously.
I'll
Yeah.
need to give you somewhere to mark experience. For now, I'll keep track of it, but
Okay.
you gain no experience.
Yeah, guys. There's a. Well, I wouldn't have a look, but just take my word for it. There's a severed hand over there. I would not like the fare of those amongst you to come to any upset.
You're telling me you've never seen a severed hand before?
I've seen loads.
You're going to see a lot more severed hands during your career in the Crypt Diggers.
I've seen hundreds.
Hundreds.
I'll take your word for it.
Oh, I think I've probably seen about 7.
One of them might have been the same one twice.
That is true. So I think we're on the right track, suffice to say.
Do wolves normally sever hands?
Do wolves sever hands?
Not normally.
I guess a wolf can sever a hand, says Erewhon thoughtfully.
I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, you bite an arm hard enough and you can get through.
Yeah, that guy in 127 hours did it with like a fork.
And it only took him 100 or so hours.
127 hours. Is that play that toured around?
Yes.
Toured around the provinces a few months ago.
Very good, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was a good one. Yeah.
I don't think he started cutting his hand off after 27 hours. Actually, I don't know.
Well, you would wait a while, right? That wouldn't be your first. Wouldn't be your go-to.
That's my go-to.
It might be now. Like if I got stuck, I might be like, well, that guy waited 126 hours and he
That's
nearly
why I
died.
carry around a fork.
I'll do it in hour 1.
Cut my hand off at any opportunity I get.
You reach the top of a ridge. You've been steadily climbing for the past half hour or so, and your search has been ongoing for an hour and a half. You're surprised at how quickly you found the trail and how easy it was to follow. But as you near the top of the ridge, it goes cold as the trees get sparser and the undergrowth a little less thick. Just as you go over the top of this ridge, you see a man who is staggering from side to side. You hear him cry out something not quite coherent.
Come again.
Hello there, drunken man.
Hello, hello.
Harold!
Harold?
Who's
Harold?
Victor.
You've seen Harold? Have you seen Harold?
Who's Harold?
What did his hands look like?
He had a shepherd's hands. He's my son. He's a shepherd boy.
Victor, was it a shepherd's hand?
I'm not familiar with how shepherd's hands are kept. I do my best not to look at shepherds.
Bloody useless.
A shepherd's hand would have like smooth fingers.
What do you mean? Why are you
the whistling?
Why are you asking if it was a shepherd's hand? What do you mean?
I'm just really into hands.
Yes. Just no reason.
I don't understand. Have you seen Harold or not?
No, not all of him. No.
What does that? I've been out here all night.
So I have some. I will. I have some potentially bad news.
How can one encompass what it means to be Harold and recognize it?
He's all I have.
We found his severed hand, sir.
You can't tell him that.
I just did.
What do you mean?
Yes. Found
Is Harold dead?
No idea.
His hand is.
We can't really establish that, sir, because you won't tell us what his hand looks like.
Right. Let's change tack. Sir, please sit down. What's your name?
He slumps down onto the ground on the slightly raised part of this ridge. My name's Terrace.
Terrace.
That's what I said.
Terrace, are you hungry? Do you want a piece of bagel? I saved some.
Yes.
You look like you...
Yes, I think I need it.
There you go.
I'm not sure I'm ever going to find Harold.
She'll help you.
When did you last see Harold, sir? Says Stephen.
Terrace wolfs down this. Wolfs down.
Hey.
Gobbles up the small morsel of bagel that is offered to him by Anchor, and he says, "Hi, I saw him yesterday morning. It must have been. Oh God, has it been that long? He was just going to tend to the sheep. He's only been doing it on his own for a week. I thought I could trust him with the responsibility, but then yesterday afternoon, Maurice came around and told me about Mabel and how the wolves, there was these awful wolves that had taken Mabel, and I came out to try and find Harold to warn him. But the flock was... The sheep were two of them were covered in this horrible substance, and they could barely walk, and Harold was gone.
I'm sorry to hear of your troubles. Who are Maurice and Mabel? Are they other human beings?
They own the farm over. Well, Maurice does, and Mabel is her daughter. She's much stronger than Maurice or I ever were. She if the wolves managed to overpower her, then Harold didn't stand a chance. Oh God, poor Mabel.
So we shall help you find these noble people.
What's your name?
My name is Victor von Thorn.
Okay, Victor.
We are all members of the Crypt Diggers, and we shall help you in your endeavour.
The Crypt Diggers. That sounds familiar. The ones, the posters around town.
That's the one.
Yeah, I saw those when I went to the market. So
That's us.
So Maurice really did come to try and convince you to look for Mabel.
Well,
And this hand did you really find a hand?
I did find a hand, but let's not jump to any conclusions. This is a busy forest, I'm sure. Could have belonged to anyone.
Plenty of people have hands.
This is true.
Please, it's one of the few dangers that we shepherds face near woods like these. Woods that carry secrets and angry gods. We know that we haven't been following the rituals as we used to. Ever since the elder died, we've been slacking, and we knew that sooner or later something like this might happen. But
perhaps you've been following the wrong faith.
What do you mean?
Hank, I don't think now's the time.
I believe now is certainly the time.
Chap.
This man has been praying to false gods, has he not, Anka?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Oh, gosh.
You took the words from my mouth. Exactly.
May I ask you, sir, what dimensions do you think the Earth possesses?
Look, Tank, I don't think this is very relevant right now. I think.
No, it is very relevant.
I don't.
He's seeking for like
Ugh.
higher.
I never stomach these godly types.
I don't understand. What does this have to do with Kozul and Diana? What?
Listen, we can discuss all of these philosophical implications later, after we find these people who could be in dire
I'm
need of our help.
talking about the truth, Victor. Don't diminish me. This is the truth. It's bagel.
It's about more than just the bagels. It's about the Earth that we
We
live
could
on.
discuss bagels and whatnot after we find this man's son.
Listen, this it all sounds very, very noble, but all I really want right now is some closure. I just want to know what happened to Harold, and
Come along with me then.
if I dare hope that he might still be alive.
I'm gonna help you.
And Terrace's voice trails off as Victor puts an arm under his shoulder and lifts him up. Can I ask what the plan is? Are you going to take Terrace with you?
Yeah, I think we should take him to the hand
Yeah.
so he can identify.
I'm not sure you can identify someone from a hand. But
I mean, you can identify the age.
Yeah.
surely we can already identify the age.
Like, I reckon I could. If you said this could be your son's hand, and then you could immediately tell.
Do you know the back of my hand like the back of yours?
You're not my son, Jamie.
It says here.
Yeah, says me.
Do we need to do a paternity test to?
We could just take fingerprints.
It'll be a very exciting first episode of the podcast.
Yeah. Immediately have to check if I'm related.
Oh dear. Okay, so you're gonna go back the way you came away. This was about 20 minutes ago that you found the hand. I should also note that you weren't able to pick the hand up. Well, you didn't mention that you would have tried, because that would have had some consequences if you tried to actually pick the hand up and take it with you.
I didn't even look at the hand.
Yeah.
I think we should ask him which direction his son walked in. So Caradin grabs the map and showing it to Terra says, where on the map are your sheep? Which direction did he head in?
This map's. Let me just. And he looks up around and checks the position of the sun. And checks some trees and some of the foliage on the ground, and licks his finger and holds it up to the air to feel the wind. And he says, "Okay, yes, this map isn't quite right. You see, just up here, the forest ends like this," and he traces a finger on the map where there's currently it's forest all the way across, but he points out where the boundary of the forest would be. And then he says, "Oh no, sorry, the scale's not quite right. It's just here, and beyond that there are, well, they're not fields exactly. It's more like large clearings, and we have marked paths through the other end of the woods, and so it's here." And he's pointing over more or less due east of where you are. And well, the sheep also graze on some of the forest grasses. You see the long thick ones that grow around the bases of trees in this you see. And for a brief moment you see that this shepherd is distracted by the details and practices of his trade and daily routine, before a wave of grief and worry flows over his face once more, and he says, this trail that you've marked runs close to here. No, if you're after the wolves, that means they were.
There. Get yourself together, man. We have a job to do to find your son.
I'm not sure I can do this with you. The 2 injured sheep are still there. I left them behind in my haste to look for Harold, and
You stay here.
Gosh.
If Harold is still alive, we will find him.
Caradin's right.
Are you going to be all right on your own? Yeah.
I know these woods. I've been exploring them ever since I was Harold's age. I'll be okay. Please, if you can, even if he's gone, if you could bring him back to me.
We will endeavour to do so, sir. You have my
And
word as a former knight.
the last of his strength barely trickling to keep him moving forwards, he hobbles down the hill, almost falling over on a few occasions, heading east towards where, according to Stephen's map, his field and sheep lie.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that's the way we were going to head, because that's where Harold would have been. It's going to be awkward if we did that big goodbye and then we head in the same direction.
Just like in real life.
We'll just come back.
I do not wish to be callous, gentlemen, but our mission here is to investigate the source of these disorders and put a stop to it. It is not necessarily to pursue every lost child or injured sheep that the local peasantry bring to us.
True enough. But
if the son's alive, he'll be with the wolves.
Exactly.
And if he's not, we'll probably never see this guy again.
That might be. Do you think he would want his son's hand back? Is that something? Because you just say bring him back to me, and if that's all there is left.
It once said that there would be some consequences
You think there'd
if
be
we try to take the hand.
maybe? Yeah, it is covered in corrosive ectoplasm.
Ectoplasma, exactly.
Okay, let's leave the hand. Leave the hand. It was probably a bit in poor taste anyway.
And it's just too violent for a dad to like keep only the hand.
Okay, onwards then, following the wolves. And if you find the sun, so much the better.
Onwards.
Well, okay, which way are you going? Are you going to carry on north and hope that the trail picks up in that direction, or are you going to head east to get some more clues from this?
Well, if we're standing on a ridge, may Erewhon take an observation check?
Certainly.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Wow, it's a 12.
You see everything.
So as the conversation has been going on, Erewhon has been scanning the horizon with eagle eyes, or scanning the countryside with eagle eyes, and a tracker's instinct.
And what he's spotted are more of these unnatural footprints. But as he's approached to see in which direction these footprints have been proceeding, he spots some matted black fur caught in a splinter of bark on a nearby tree. And it's clear that when the wolves passed through this area, there was something struggling against them. There are grooves and ruts, and even possibly some finger or boot prints in a couple of places. In a dip here where previously there had been a puddle, and so the mud was very soft. And it's clear that a wolf was shoved against a tree here. But beyond the signs of that struggle, there are no signs of life remaining here.
Erewhon, sort of investigating the scene, takes his cigar, which he has clamped in his mouth, and which is lit, and he uses it to light the hair that was caught on the bark.
All right. It quickly lights up and begins to fizzle. But as soon as it gets halfway down, it arrives at a point where the fur is more matted, and a pungent smell, even more pungent than the ordinary smell of burning hair, rises. And this kind of waxy slime completely liquefies and begins trickling down the bark of the tree, and immediately begins to kind of bubble on the tree surface. And the bark is, in mere moments, corroded away by this hot slime before none of the heated section is left, and a small clump of matted fur remains still stuck to this tree.
Oh, what's that smell?
Erewhon sort of turns to the party and says, "No, I ain't a man of science, but I think that shows that the ectoplasm is to do with the wolves. Because that fur clearly produced the same effect
Right.
as the corrosive ectoplasm."
How are these wolves not getting dissolved by their own gunk? Beggars belief.
Well, how does a snake not get poisoned by its own venom?
They're in glands, I think. I think it's in glands. Remember from my
Well, I suppose these wolves will have glands as well, then.
ectoplasm glands. Wow, if we get our hands on some of that, we'd be a fine weapon.
The mages would certainly thank us for that.
Yeah, thank us handsomely.
I should think so.
It takes
You're
only.
thinking like a crypt digger now.
Now you're thinking with crypt. It takes Erewhon only a few more cursory glances left and right to determine that this trail indeed continues to the north. But moreover, that it joins a trail that came here from the east. Further evidence that Harold may have come this way and perhaps been apprehended by these wolves. As you proceed to the north, the sun is getting higher in the sky, but the tree cover is getting thicker and thicker. The distance between trees is getting smaller, and you're having to wade through piles of dead and rotting leaves as you follow this trail. Obviously, these dead and rotting leaves make it quite easy to follow the trail, since it seems to have been made or remade, well, very recently. About an hour down this trail later, the signs of struggling have long since ceased, although there is still clear signs that something or someone has been dragged through this forest. And you come across a cave entrance. Well, it's less of a cave and more like the entrance to a tunnel that heads underground. The forest gives way to a large outcropping of rock, and just where the soil meets this rock, it sinks down to create an opening, which is relatively large, but protected by an overhang of rock a little bit further down. Can I get Caradon and you know what, Caradon, Victor, and Anchor to do observation checks? Oh, very nice.
I'm sharp today.
11 and a
Pretty
9.
light for us. Is
Good lord.
Yeah. I expected the thicker tree cover to make it more difficult, but I suppose this is a sound rather than something that you've seen. You can hear water flowing not too much further on. That is, beyond the entrance, perhaps behind this rocky outcropping, you can hear a stream burbling away.
anyone else need to pee? Or is that just me?
Don't say such things in front of the lady, sir.
You also see that these footprints head down into the cave, although they stop as soon as the soil gives way to rock. It's at this point that Stephen, assessing the situation, decides it's about time to report back to the Crypt Digger camp.
Oh, well,
Gentlemen, I shall bid you adieu for now. I'm head to report back to Garone my observations of our journey so far. But you will see more of me if you survive.
oh, are we to head
Oh,
on there
good.
now?
Everyone seems very keen on this idea, thinking it a rather trivial mission in the grand scheme of things.
Couple of wolves, no big deal, even if they are corrosive wolves. I've dealt with corrosive things in my life. I've dealt with wolves in my life. I don't think corrosive wolves will be too much different.
Very well wary man, aren't you, sir?
What corrosive things have you dealt with?
I've dealt with corrosive bats
Corrosive bats.
15 years ago.
I'm sure the experience is transferable.
Well, bless my bagel.
Corrosive,
That's
well,
No, it's
sort
more
of.
or less the
I mean,
same.
you deal with the corrosive bats in a different sort of way. You have to make a sort of a steel net, a steel like tennis racket sort of thing that you use to whack them.
What's a tennis racket? What's that?
Yes. You never heard of the game of tennis? I'm sure our knight friend here will have played some tennis.
I've whacked a few balls in my time.
Oh, I'm sure you have.
Well, then you'd make an excellent combatant against the plague of acidic bats
Oh well,
that I had to deal with 15 years ago.
that's very heartening to hear. But it's only down there.
Okay, I
I've had-
trust that we can deal with this. This man clearly knows his corrosive animals.
Yes, well, you lead on, Mr. Tank, and I should.
I know my corrosive animals, and I have faith in Taurus Earth, the Great Bagel.
Right.
Great big.
How
All right, see you later, Stephen.
And he sort of
Bagel.
he's got a kind of a metal bagel that he has around his neck on a necklace, and he kisses it quickly.
how exactly does this bagel Earth protect you against
Hey, bagel always protects you.
but how?
Bagel protects the faithful.
It's just the landform you're standing on.
The reason why you're not falling from the earth, from the edge, is because it's a bagel.
Is it really? Oh,
It is.
gosh, I'm learning a lot already in the part of this company.
As you make your way into the cave, idly chatting about the nature and shape of the earth as you go, and Stephen Depretis disappears behind you. And you see that this cave, while it may have been originally a natural formation, now bears many markings of its inhabitants. The walls carry a kind of yellow sheen. Not that they're covered in this ectoplasm, but that it seems to have spread over the surface, tainting the whole place and making the walls unnaturally smooth, considering their rocky formation. The tunnel proceeds for about 100 feet, and you're steadily going down as you enter it. And your eyes immediately adjust to this yellowish gloom. The walls don't glow exactly. It's more like there's a source of this sickly light deeper in the cave that these walls very effectively reflect. And within a few minutes, you've arrived at a fork in the tunnel. It's a three-way fork. The leftmost and middle path seem to exit into a large chamber where this glow seems to be originating from. And further to the right, there is a tunnel where the light seems to decrease, with darkness further ahead.
Hey, I don't want to choose immediately. So Anka picks up a piece of rock from the ground and throws it as far as she can towards the path where we see the yellow glue.
Well, Anka goes to do that and then notices that there aren't any obvious small rocks. Not only are the walls of this cave are very smooth, but the floor also seems to be devoid of any debris. There's nothing here. There's the same kind of glistening, smooth look, although it wasn't so smooth as to be slippery and difficult to walk on.
The caves and crypts normally like this, Mr. Tank.
I can't say they are. This doesn't look like an entirely natural cave.
You're saying this cave is not a natural formation?
Not like one I've ever seen.
Gosh.
Is Anka going to throw something else instead?
But what we heard some water flow or something like. I remember hearing.
Yes. Can we?
Yeah, all
If
right.
we're all quiet.
Anka, do another observation check.
Sure.
All right. It's bad.
How?
She got a 3.
Maybe I could use my torch. It would help. Maybe I can see something.
Yeah, all right. So the dim glowing light not providing enough stimulus to be able to find anything small within the cave to throw, Anka decides to light her torch. And no sooner does she do this than that smell from earlier, that sulfurous stench, immediately fills the air as the wall above you is heated up. And within a few seconds of you lighting this torch, a small drop falls from the ceiling above you, and take a wit check.
This doesn't seem like a great idea.
Especially with several novices.
+3.
All right, it's an 11
Nice.
plus 3. It's a 14. Pretty good. She nimbly sidesteps out of the way as this drip hits the ground, and there's that fizzing corrosion where this heated fluid has had its corrosive properties accelerated, and a tiny marble-sized dent is formed in the floor where Anka was just standing.
Right.
Put that light out.
Victor raises his kite shield above his head and allows Anka to go underneath it.
For fuck's sake.
I'm just being chivalrous.
Can we at least put out the torch first?
Yeah, okay.
Oh boy.
Are you going to do it?
I'm not liking this, but sure. What?
All right. No sooner has she lit it than she is convinced by Caradon to stamp out the torch before another fizzing drip falls from the ceiling where she had it outstretched. What now?
Can we hear the stream still?
Do you hear the people sing the
No,
songs
stream.
of angry men?
No, it's the stream.
You can't hear the stream.
Okay.
There is a kind of glugging, like bubbling noise periodically, but it doesn't sound like the stream that you heard outside at any rate.
Okay.
Is it possible that?
I should mention that glugging noise is coming from the larger chamber, where the light is coming from on the left and middle forks.
I was going to ask that.
I suggest my instinct would be to head towards the light.
I've always been told not to go into the light.
Oh, right. Curious philosophy. Into the dark, then?
Well, if Earth is Taurus, if Earth is a bagel, at the end we're gonna end up at the same place. So it doesn't matter if we go left or right or.
Well, I'm assuming it's quite a big bagel.
What?
I have to say, my experience as a cryptogre overrides my faith in the bagel at this particular point. I think it will make a significant difference which direction we take.
Mr. Tank.
But the bagel can help us out in another respect. And Arwan takes a bagel from inside his coat from one of the hooks and rolls it down the left passage towards the light.
All right. No sooner does it reach the mouth of that passage than it abruptly falls out of view, and you hear moments later, well, less than a moment later, I guess, half a second later, it thunking to the ground, followed by a light splash as it falls onto its side in what must be a shallow puddle. From this information, you gather that there is a short drop below the exit of this left-hand fork.
I had gathered that, yes.
Right. That doesn't sound promising.
What does that tell us about where to go
Possibly not that way.
and your experience as a crypt digger? A drop's good. A wet bagels can't be good.
Drops can be good. It tells you you're getting closer to the core. If you want to cut right to it, get into the heart of darkness, that's what you do. Are you ready to enter the heart of darkness?
A second later, you hear some creature padding over and investigating this dropped snack. And then you hear you hear the sound of a creature licking its lips and a biting and swallowing sound, and then a sniffing, as if it's sniffing up the wall, and then it gives up and pads away.
Well, that was a bit close for comfort. I suggest we get a move on before we're discovered.
Right, then not that direction then.
Yeah.
Which of the other passages do we go for? The light or the darkness?
Well, I think the wolves were light, so is it less likely to be wolves in the dark?
Well, we're here to deal with the wolves, aren't we?
Yeah, but I don't
How
want
do
them
we want to address this? Take them head on?
I don't
Or
want
go
them
around the back?
discovering us. I'd rather be able to get them one-on-one. I don't want the whole pack to get the drop on us when we could take them off one at
Well,
a
we
time.
just discovered one thing. These wolves like bagels.
Everyone loves bagel.
So just to give you a clearer picture of this, because it might help in your decision making. There are two entrances ahead of you. Three entrances, rather. The right hand is a tunnel that leads into a darker area. The left hand one and right hand one, it's kind of obvious that they lead into the same larger area, and you suspect that from the middle one, which opens out a little bit more, there must similarly be a drop into the room. And as well, would anyone be brave enough to go a little bit closer to try and get a bit more of a visual sense of the situation?
Of course.
So
Sure.
Victor takes a few paces forwards and sees that this central pathway consists of a ledge which has a clear line of sight out over this larger chamber. And from where you're standing, without going out onto that ledge, you can just about see the rump of some large creature in the chamber. But you can also see that beyond this ledge, the cave continues. Again, heading more into darkness.
That's not entirely illuminating, but I do have a torch. Oh no, but we've just established that lighting a torch causes corrosive drips on our heads.
I also have a torch, but I have a mirror. Somehow can we use it?
Sure. Roll a wit check.
Okay, 6 + 3.
Okay, so you take your mirror and look around the corner and see in this large chamber, which is lower than the entrance which you've come in through, no fewer than 4 wolves, one of which is awake, but the other 3 seem to be resting. And this last one, having chowed down on a bagel, is also looking lethargic, so to speak. Beyond the chamber, you can just about make out what seems to be the source of this glowing, which is a pool of this corrosive substance, or at least from your position, all you can see is a pool. But there seems to be more light coming from beyond. You also, having inched out into this onto this ledge, in order to get a better view with the mirror, you see indeed the tunnel. There's a tunnel beyond the ledge, which initially leads into darkness, but there is just a hint of a glow further on, which means that you suspect if you followed it, you wouldn't end up in complete darkness without recourse for a light source.
Sounds like a Wombat song or something.
It's the name of my first album.
Recourse for a light source.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what you always need as a backup when you're making pasta.
I took a lemon to a knife fight.
All right, give me one more decisive action that I can.
I don't
use.
think I know what decisive. I don't think we should let them head on. I think we should go to this other slightly dimly lit room.
Wait.
Yeah, wait until like they separate or something, or they're all asleep, and then we can attack at once. I say we follow this dimmer light source.
All right, Victor inches out across this ledge. It's not a really narrow ledge. You can just walk across it. But presumably you're trying to avoid getting the attention of the one still conscious wolf. So what are you doing in order to not attract attention?
Taking wit checks, probably.
Yeah.
I think. But
Taking wit checks, I am.
I suppose we are tiptoeing and generally taking this extremely slowly and delicately.
This isn't
Okay.
Victor's, specialist subject. Creeping.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's a good thing he's going first then, huh?
Oh shit.
Oh shit.
Oh dear.
So Victor got a 6. Erwan got a 5. Caradon got a 8, a 9,
9.
and Anchor got a 10.
Well.
All right. So
made redundant by the fact that everyone else got spied.
So actually, Caradon and Anchor choose the fast route, trying to get cross this gap as quickly as possible, while Victor and Erwan decide that it's better to crawl and try and stay out of sight. But the result is that they are a little bit too noisy, and while they don't immediately wake the 3 sleeping wolves, the one that's just had a snack raises its head and sniffs the air and pads over to where you two are, and it starts scrabbling at the wall just below the ledge where you are, and it's letting out what in a dog you might describe as a whine, but there's this harmony to it. It's kind of whining a chord, and
It's a fortified wine.
fortified wine.
Very nice.
Exactly. It's whining with this 2 clashing notes, and you can't help but look down over this ledge. It's clearly seen you, and you see for the first time the grotesque form of this wolf. The wolf's muzzle is longer than any wolf you've ever seen, and with its lips pulled back in this whine that has the undertones of a growl just beginning. As the wolf draws its lips back, you see that its teeth are the same yellow color as the slime that coats the walls and is forming these corrosive pools at the back. And you see its eyes, veined with red, but the same yellow, seeing you clearly, but milky, almost translucent. The fur is black and matted. The paws large, heavy set. The shoulders powerful. As it whines, you can see this creature breathing, and it seems to be breathing too slowly and too heavily, its ribcage expanding and contracting like bellows. And as you lock eyes with it, this discordant whine reaches a crescendo, and it opens its jaws, and out flies a glob of glowing, corrosive goo. Thank you for listening to A Bell Chimes. You can find us at abellchimes.com. You can email us at achimingbell@gmail.com, or send us a message on Twitter at abellchimes.